My dad was not supposed to get involved in organized crime. His father actually told him, it's like, if that's the kind of life you want to live, then you can't live here anymore, and you can't work in my burger joint.
And
Um,
your grandfather had his own business, which is weird because your father could have
yeah,
chose that road of being an
yeah,
entrepreneur. I mean, he was an
yeah,
entrepreneur in his own right, but he had the legit way to go on being an entrepreneur.
yeah. I guess his frame of thinking at the time was is there were a lot of guys that did hang around over there, and they did try to, for lack of a better word, pressure my grandfather into getting involved with them, but he turned them down every time. Um,
Was your father born here or the other side?
no, Wikipedia's got it wrong. I tried to get a message over to Jeff Nadeau because I know Jeff Nadeau did a little something
Yeah.
on my dad. But anyway, no, my dad was born here in the States. Yeah,
And your grandfather, was he born here or born there?
no, my grandfather was born here.
Okay.
Um,
So they're
but
true
that,
Italian Americans. Okay.
yeah, but Raphael was my grandfather's first cousin.
Wow.
And that's why he really
Mm,
despised that life.
correct.
He knew what his cousin was about, and I mean,
Well,
come on.
you and I now I like you even more because we're basically paisan. So one of the things though, and I just want to give some context to everybody, and I do cover Italian organized crime. The Camorra, as you know, Bill, and don't get me wrong, we're not honoring LCN in Brooklyn. We're not saying good guys.
No.
We're not saying that. But the Camorra are just the bad people. Like they're just bad people. And the Camarista, they don't mess around. And so if you're from Napoli or Napolitano from the area or region, Benevento, wherever, right? And you come here, when you think about La Camorra, I understand what your grandfather was saying. Versus here, again, we're not saying they were good, but there's some reverence or some Godfather esque with American Brooklyn LCN. So I can kind of see that dichotomy where like your grandfather's like, hell no. So what happened with your father and him, and what were some of the tribulations that your father went through? Because he obviously eventually got into life, but what was that like?
Well, my grandfather passed away the year that I was born in 1970,
Oh
and
wow,
my dad was born in 49, so he was barely
wow.
21,
Yeah, kid.
21 at the time. So once his dad had passed, I think I 90% that he seen that flipping burgers for living, and those were his words, flipping burgers, was not in the cards for him. He didn't feel that he was going to be able to take care of his mother and his sisters. He had three sisters at the time, and it wasn't enough. And he didn't want to sell the place,
Yeah.
so he held on to it. Then he started hanging around with this guy by the name of Whitey,
Yeah.
Whitey Tropiano. Um, and Whitey was feared on 11th Avenue. Sharp guy, sharp dresser. Um, but my dad was the muscle. So um, soon on my podcast, I'll drop some of those,
Stories. Yeah.
uh, yeah, those court docs as well. Um, some serious shit. Like I remember seeing them, and I only seen some of them about a year ago, and I remember like combing through some of them, and this person had highlighted a lot of things for me, so it made it easier for me to delve into. But I was blown away at how young my dad was and the shit that he was doing at that time. You know, then he started getting involved in hijacking, which was a huge money maker. He told me there was two sides of hijacking. He's like, look, he goes, I remember one time they hijacked a trailer load of women's shoes, and he couldn't sell them, you know, and my father, out of his own pocket, wound up buying all the shoes and then kicked up to Whitey,
Makes
and then he was around Charlie Moose after that, Panarella. and Charlie Moose was another one who was.
Was
And Charlie Moose, yeah, Charlie Moose, I got to meet
yeah.
and sit with. You know, I went and picked him up from the airport during the war. You
Wow.
know, they brought him in from Vegas to try to uh, mediate. You know, to try to get the two sides to stop.
Yeah.
And I picked him up from the airport, and my dad had told me some stories about this guy that soon as he got into my car, I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, this motherfucker, if he does or says something that's fucking sideways, I swear I'm just gonna fucking open the door on the fucking Bell Parkway and just push him out. You know?
Love it.
My dad had told me a quick story, and this is why I felt that way. My dad had told me he had bought his first brand new car, and he had to go pick up Charlie. And Charlie was the type of guy that he would tell you to be on the corner at 3 o'clock, saying that he's going to be there, make sure you're there to pick me up, and
Yeah.
then not show up till 6. And
Mhm.
that if you weren't there, you were
Right.
fucking lit. You were lit. You know, he lit you up. So my dad had bought a new car, and he goes to pick up Charlie. Charlie's smoking a cigar, and he's looking for an ashtray in the car. And at first, my father had turned around and says, Charlie, look, it's a new car. I really don't want to smoke in it or whatever. But my dad said it went in one ear and out the other.
Mm.
So he couldn't find an ashtray. So my dad said verbatim, Willie, he put the fucking cigar out in my dashboard.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was driving, and I picked him up in a brand new Acura. So that's why,
Mm.
that thought had, so he comes out of the airport.